he's actually coming in.
What happened?
I don't know. It just gave me a little message on the phone line. That's all right. Did you hear all that?
Yeah, I heard that.
Okay. Hey guys.
How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you guys?
Good. I mean, ideally we'll start it up, do a quick introduction, and then we'll go from there. So as you know, my name is AK, Coach AK, and I'm the executive director here over at the 3 Point Foundation, and we're actually doing a summer camp to host roughly 40 kids. We have 20 volunteers to help in this summer program called Cab Academy, where we're actually doing a competition called Junior Shark Tank, where all the students are creating a product and they're going to pitch it to see which one will get invested. And we're also using basketball, project-based learning, and also character development for these 4 weeks. But first and foremost, I just want to say thank you, Nadeem, for coming on. And a little bit of introduction to Nadeem. He is a 2-time city councilor, an entrepreneur, and also a graduate of MIT. But I feel like Nadeem can better talk about himself and just tell me a little bit about who you are to first start out.
Sure, and I hope Quinton does as well. Yeah, we both went to MIT.
Yeah, talk about yourself.
So I grew up not too far from Boston in Andover. My dad came to this country from Egypt, and he always thought like, wow, I want to live in a place with great education. And so he moved the whole family to Boston just to think about the education of the kids and to think about how he could be near a great university. And I never felt like, and actually he never felt like I was going to be good enough to attend MIT or one of the universities that he was excited about. And one thing that we were able to do throughout my whole childhood, as I actually cherished education and thought about entrepreneurship and got very creative about my work, I was always working really hard. I was never the smartest kid in class, but I was always working ahead of the curriculum, doing more than the assigned homework. One summer, I came home and my math teacher had written me a note. He said, "If you seem to like geometry, what about trigonometry?" And in that summer, I did 2 years of math, not because 2 years of math was hard to do in one summer. I just realized that the class had been going so slowly that when I sat by myself and focused, I was able to get ahead. And I think when it was time to apply to MIT said, "Yeah, you have pretty good grades. You've been working hard. You've at least been trying to get the A's. But the fact that you're so far ahead because you've been working on your own, you've been reading books on your own, you've been trying your best to teach yourself." I think that really made a difference for those folks, despite the fact that I wasn't ever the sharpest knife in the drawer. And eventually, when you take that kind of attitude, I find that you kind of fake it till you make it, but then one day you make it, right? If you behave like someone who's trying to work ahead, if you behave like someone who's the smartest kid in class, eventually you might get there. So I think I had that experience where I was always trying to be the best and always coming up a little short, but because I was aiming so high, I had something that I could reach towards, and I eventually got into the experiences that I needed to improve my my abilities. So we did that at MIT. I did that in sports. I did that by training, and I eventually became a coach in the sport that I was interested in at MIT. I became the varsity squash coach and the captain of the team and the #1 player on the team. And there's a lot of experiences in life where I just felt like, wow, I'm going to fail. And by I think just grasping hard to those opportunities to fail hard and aim high, and kind of not be worried about failure, I really was able to get past the failure into some small level of success. And that's what's taken me into entrepreneurship. That's what's taken me into service for the city. I thought, wow, no one's going to win city council on the first time. It's not for someone like me who is unknown in the city. And then you work really hard and people say, wow, he's got some great ideas. Maybe that could make a big difference for all of us. And, maybe now Quinton can say a bit about himself, and maybe he has a similar opinion about running for council or having an impact in the community.
Well, yeah. Thank you, Nadeem. And Quincy, I'd like to hear the same. Your story.
Thanks. My name is Quinton Zondervan. I have a very similar story to Nadeem's. I came to the U.S. as an immigrant. I was 15 years old, and my family had to work really hard just to make ends meet. And throughout my childhood, I always looked up to my grandfather, and he would always say that the one thing that nobody can ever take away from you is whatever knowledge you have in your head. You know, whatever you've learned, whatever education you've received, that is always going to belong to you. Nobody can take that from you. And so I always took that to heart and really, you know, like Nadeem, studied really hard. You know, I grew up, of course, before the internet, so we couldn't just look stuff up. So I actually would save up my money. You know, I would mow lawns for people and clean their houses and get paid that way. And I would save up my money and buy encyclopedias so that I could read and learn and understand how the world works.
This man mowed lawns to buy encyclopedias. Work harder than you are working.
But it's true. And, you know, my dream when I was in high school was to study at MIT, but because I was an immigrant and we didn't have enough money, I couldn't come here. And I was offered a scholarship at a small college down the street. So I went to that college, and, you know, the scholarship paid for 5 classes. And so I would take 5 classes every semester. And all the kids would be like, "Why are you doing that? You only need to take 4 to graduate." And I said, "But it's free, you know, like it's already paid for." So I studied really hard and was able to come to MIT to do a master's, to do my graduate studies here. And throughout that time, I also, you know, became really concerned about what we're doing to the environment. And so I started doing activism in college. And then when I started living in Cambridge, I set up nonprofits and I joined other citizens and activists to take action to make our city better and our world better. And last year, I decided to run for City Council to do even more.
And I mean, just to talk about it, especially there's a few terms that some individuals may not be familiar with. Explain, 1, an entrepreneur, and 2, a city councilor. Like, how would you describe those two?
Well, I'll take entrepreneur. I'll let Nadeem describe city councilor. An entrepreneur is somebody who starts businesses. I've started several businesses in my life. You can think of any kind of business, you know, from a flower shop to a software company to, you know, a big company. Every big company that you've ever seen started as a small company a long time ago. So entrepreneurs are people who create new companies that didn't exist before.
And Quinton's what you call a serial entrepreneur, where he has started many companies many times, and you start to get good at the things that are the hardest. Sometimes, in fact, almost every time, and AK can tell us all about this, it's not the idea that's the hardest thing. The hardest thing is the things you wouldn't expect. How to account for your finances, how to raise money, how to train a team, how to get that team to do what they say they're going to do, how to do the work with a smile on your face, and how to respond when the customer isn't excited about the work you've done. All of that stuff is going to be the same for every business. So sometimes people are most successful with their second or their third business. They use their youth, they use their time in high school or college when they're starting their first business, and they say, you know, I may be young to start this first business, but I've got to get that learning out of the way to understand how to make my future businesses even more successful. Your first business might be, you know, the corner flower shop, may be successful, maybe not successful, but your second business might be Facebook or Microsoft, and it becomes really large and really powerful because of the things you learn and the failures that you experience. Being a city councilor in many ways is like being an entrepreneur. To win election, people have to vote for you over your competitor or competitors. Sometimes there's more than one. And you all have to have a team, and it's the same thing. You have to meet people. You have to convince them that your policy, your ideas for improving the city are better. You want to use the money of the city in a different way. You want to use the time of the city in a different way. You want to handle people's problems in a better way. And in that way, you're kind of like a company. You're responding to the customer, but the customer is the voter. And all of you will be voters. All of you will have the vote when you turn 18. And you must vote every single time, because who we choose is extremely important. You know, some people like Trump. I don't like Trump, and I think that what he's doing to our country could hurt our future success. Well, if just a few more people had voted, we would be in a different situation. Every single vote counts. And when I was elected the first time by only 6 votes. That's 6 people. That's just like walking down the street and saying to my friends, hey, remember to vote. That's the number I won by. But it made a huge difference because being a city councilor paid me to be able to help people. That's the job that the city pays me to do. And when I won the second time, I was able to help so many people that I got the most votes out of anyone running. And that's when you know you have a good team and a good company, because the product is more, in this case, the product is how we're helping people, right? But the product is more exciting and is more well-known to people.
Well, thank you. I know we have some questions coming up, but I know you're at City Hall at the moment, correct?
Yeah. You want to see inside of the main chamber?
Yeah, so while we're doing that, we have some questions that are arising, and then so you can give us a little tour of what actually City Hall looks like while we get some of these questions compiled together.
Okay, sounds great. I'll just give you a quick tour around. You can see it. I don't know if you can see actually if the quality of the camera is good enough, but in all of these city halls all over the country, there's a lot of attention to detail. It's almost like supposed to be very beautiful and a very nice place to spend time, so the public wants to come in. So from the outside, this building is one of the most beautiful in Cambridge and one of the most historic. The wallpaper inside is kind of funky. The desks are these old kind of oak-looking desks here. And you kind of feel like you're in the past a little bit, right? Like these desks have probably been here for 50 years. And before that, there were very similar desks all the way back to the inception of this room, which is, decades, if not hundreds of years old. I found, or the clerk found, and she showed me in our archives, an original version of the Declaration of Independence. When they were marching around with the Declaration of Independence to all the old cities in what became America, they would actually leave a copy and say, you have to read this in church. And so we actually have one of those copies that they signed. They didn't have like a copy machine or something. There was someone sitting there writing all those copies of the Declaration of Independence. And this city is so old that it was there to say, okay, we're America now. We're gonna read that when everyone's there on Sunday. And that gives you a sense of history that's in a city like this and in a chamber like this. And, we have 9 city councilors, and one of the city councilors get voted the mayor. Sometimes in a city like Boston, the mayor is elected directly by the people. In Cambridge, the mayor is elected by the body of 9 councilors, and the mayor sits here at this rostrum on this like big imposing Game of Thrones looking thing, and runs the whole meeting. Every week we sit and we meet and we talk about the budget, and once a year we enact the budget, which is $500 million, $500 million. So Cambridge as a city is almost like a really big company.
Oh. Well, doing some technical stuff, and then you ended up 5 seconds early, so I had to run across the room.
Sorry.
So what we do is we have some questions. So we have another computer. So some students that have some questions that want to answer, we're just going to put them up on the screen, and then we'll go from there. And that can be to either of you or both of you. So we'll just go from there with the first question.
Yeah. You want to go first, TJ?
Yeah. Do you have any siblings? Mine is.
Say your name. And then
My name is TJ. I'm going to 9th grade, and my first question is: do you have any siblings?
Great question. Honey, go ahead.
I have 3 younger siblings, a brother and 2.
I have a younger sister. She's actually 11 years younger, so I've always been like parent number 3, but the fun parent. So she just graduated from college, and now she's excited to go into business herself. She gets some good advice.
Do you have another question?
Oh yeah, I have another question. What other dream job did you have?
Okay, I think we got muted.
My dream job was to be the CEO of my own company for 7 years, and we were doing research to make new medicines to help people if they got really sick.
I had a couple of dream jobs. I think I got pretty lucky with dream jobs. Oh no, we're done here.
Oh.
I got to certainly got to run a couple of my own companies. When I grew up, my dad said, "Hey, you're going to be a doctor," and I said, "Okay," but I really like animation, and I got to start an animation company. I got to start a hands-on learning company. But my real dream job was really early on when I was young. Is that when I was about 18, Nintendo of America basically sent out a contest and said, "Hey, work for Nintendo for a summer. We'll pay you $100 every day, and you're going to represent the brand." And I think almost 100,000 people across America applied, and 10 of us in 10 cities, so 100 people were chosen. About 1 in 1,000 people were chosen. I was one of the people who got to wear Nintendo stuff and wear screens on my shirt and wear Game Boy Advances on my belt. That's how long ago it was. And people would play us when we went around the city all summer, and we got to play against them. That was the whole job. Again, working hard. That'd be a fun application.
Great. Yeah, next question.
And what was one of your first steps to becoming an entrepreneur?
Well, the first step is to start a business. And when I was a teenager, I was living in Florida, and I didn't have a job. I was an immigrant. I wasn't allowed to get a job, but I was allowed to work for myself. And so I looked around. I noticed all these people have beautiful lawns, and they don't like to go out there and cut their lawn every weekend because it's a lot of work. So I said, well, I'll do it for you if you pay me $20. And next thing you know, my brother and I had this thriving business, and we would go around every day and mow 4 or 5 people's lawns, and we'd make $100. And pretty soon we were taking pretty good care of ourselves. So whatever you do, if you see that there's a need in your community for some kind of business, and you're able to satisfy that need, then you can start your own business.
Thank you.
I have another question. What was both of your majors in college?
I did something that is maybe not as normal in college. I did something that was normal, which is I switched my major. I used to be in computer science, and then I said, I can do computer science in my spare time, but I'm going to learn mechanical engineering. And then I actually did try to do a lot of things in my spare time. I was able to start an animation company because I paid my bills and my tuition by making animations for some bigger clients who didn't know I was just in college and needed a lot of high-end work done. And I did computer science in my spare time, and I did some software stuff. So I did enough. What I was learning in the classroom was very interesting to me, and it was something I thought I couldn't teach myself. And what I was doing in my spare time was all the stuff I was most passionate about, and I found a way to blend them together. So eventually my project in mechanical engineering ended up needing a lot of visuals and needing a lot of software. And I got this practice. What you have to do in school, even as early as middle school or high school, is you have to start figuring out how are you going to blend what you're learning in the classroom with what you really enjoy doing in order to both learn the most in the classroom, but also learn how to apply it the most in real life. If you're not applying what you're learning, it ends up being sometimes it ends up being less fun, but it also ends up being that when you go back to try to remember it, you don't actually know that knowledge and you can't use it as well. So a lot of people graduate high school or they graduate college and they actually have to go through a couple of years of struggle because they don't actually remember how to apply all the things they've been learning when it's most important. And another thing that happens in school is you don't always get told, here's how you're going to apply this. You just get given the information and people think like, well, I have to get good grades, but that's not actually the goal. The goal is to get good grades in order to remember the information so well that when you're out in business, you can apply it just like that without having to think about it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's just like sports, you know, if you're practicing a lot to improve your basketball shot, it's because you want to be able to do it without having to think about it, right? Your body just knows how to do it. And it's the same with any skill that you're trying to learn. When I was in high school, I would spend all my spare time writing programs. It didn't even matter what kind of programs they were, you know, I'd write little video games or little programs to help my parents, you know, run their business, whatever it was, but it was always practicing these skills. And so that when it was time to go to college, it was all very natural. It was very easy for me to do it. And so I was able to excel really quickly. And so I did study computer science and mathematics, and those were my two majors in college.
Okay. I actually have a question, especially within the space you work in, both of you, City Council. How do you get people to come on board with your vision? What strategies do you use?
That's a really good question. You know, I think I learned a lot over the last 4 years. And one thing that I learned is that it's really important to find the people. First of all, it's really important to test your hypothesis, right? You can't just have a vision. You can't just be like, I want every building in Cambridge to be 1,000 feet tall. You go around and everyone's like, I don't want that, right? You can't have a vision that's not in service of other people. You can't have a business that's making, you know, $8,000 tables out of Legos. If people aren't going to buy that, your vision might be great, but like at a certain point, you have to have a relationship with your customer. So you have to have a balance between what you see that they don't see and what they see that you don't see. And when you bring your vision, you have to be close enough to something they understand in order to make that connection with people and make it quickly. So, you know, if you came out and said, you know, I have a toothbrush that costs half as much and will make your teeth twice as white, that's pretty easy to understand. It's less expensive. It's better than what you have. If you can prove it, I'll buy it, right? It's the same thing with people understanding your vision here. They're buying something they want for themselves. So when you're painting your vision, you're not just saying, I want to eliminate this department or I want to fire these people or something. People are going to say, I don't really understand why you want to do that and I don't get it and I don't believe you. But if you say, hey, I want to make this thing better and it requires us to hire this thing and spend this thing and save this amount of money, and people can really understand why that impacts them and why that's relevant to them, they will support you. And I've found that whether you're in business or whether you're in city council, you need a lot of people behind you. You don't just run in and start selling something. You start getting a lot of people on board. Here's my 10-person focus group. They're going to tell me if I'm right or not. Here's my 20-person marketing team. They're not my employees. They're just the people who love my product so much that they're willing to sell that toothbrush for half as much because they want to see me succeed and they want to see the product succeed. In fact, they use the product every day and they love the product. And it's the same thing in city council. I say, I want to make this change. I go reach, if I can, I go reach hundreds of people. I go door knocking, literally like in the old days. I go like a door-to-door salesman. And I say, this could improve our community. And people say, yeah, you're right. We're missing that thing. I'm going to get behind you. When you need me, you call me. We're going to get people out. And then when we have a disagreement in here in this chamber, or, you know, maybe another new customer doesn't want to buy a product, you bring them, sometimes you bring them hundreds of people and you say, these people believe it. What can I do to get you on board? And they say, you know what, if we got a good crowd going, I want to join the crowd. I'll think about the product later. Does that make sense, AK?
Makes sense. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. Whenever I'm trying to promote a new vision, I think of how do I invite people to join in, because it's not about convincing them that whatever you're imagining is right. It's about inviting them to be part of that vision, right? Whatever vision you're having, it has to include them so they can see themselves in it. right? If you imagine a world and you're trying to push for that, but people can't see how they would be part of it, they're not going to support it. They're not going to join it. So you have to really paint that picture for people and show them how are they going to be part of that vision. So when I go out and I promote solar panels, for example, and like Nadeem, I go door to door and I explain to people, this is how it works. You're going to save money. You're going to save the environment. Everything's going to be awesome, right? And people can see themselves. They can imagine solar panels on their roof. And I'll even look at their roof and I'll describe to them, maybe we could put the panels on this side because there's a big tree on the other side that's shading out the roof. You really have to paint the picture so that people can see themselves in your vision, and then they can support it.
Hey, Kak, I have time for maybe one more question. I actually have to go see the city manager, and the city manager is the person who's like the CEO of the city. He listens to all 9 counselors, and he goes and he actually is in charge of making your vision a reality. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. It's a giant head just cruising across the screen.
My name's Jason. I go to Belmont Hill. I have 2 questions. What sports did you play, if you played any sports, and how would you define success?
Okay, so I played soccer and squash. I played a lot of basketball, but there came a time when I stopped growing and I could not dunk. AK, can you dunk? AK can dunk.
I was a track athlete. We only move horizontal. We do not move vertical.
Okay. So I played those and I got pretty far in both of those sports. And there came a time also, I thought I wasn't going to be good at sports, honestly, for like so many years. And then in 11th grade, I just got fast. It's like, I think you just have to keep going until you realize that you're going to be fast. All of you are going to be fast. You just have to keep holding on until that moment. So that was that. And then how do I define success? For me, I see so many rich people who are not happy. Honestly, you got to look for it. You got to like talk to these mentors, and they're giving you great business advice, and they're just not happy at home. And I see so many people who have less who are very happy. And I have found that my happiness comes from serving other people, and it often puts me in a very difficult financial position where I'm putting money out in order to help other people. And I've talked to Quinton, I've complained to him on the phone, but I feel like I'm putting all of myself and all of my money and all of my time behind trying to help, and I don't see enough movement. I don't see enough action. I don't see enough success. And Quinton has been very, very kind to say sometimes it feels like that, but essentially you just keep going because you do what's right for you, and you do what makes you happy, and you do what is morally the best thing to do. And if you're always doing what is best, especially if you're always doing what's best for others, you really can't fail. Even if you're not totally successful, you are at least holding true to the highest level of your values. Now, if you can help people and make a little money for yourself or for your family at the same time, I'm not saying a lot of money. You make a little money, I think that's the best way. I think that is the best thing to aim for. And if you can make a little money, you can always choose to make a lot of money later. But to start by helping people while having a little bit of income, I think is the best goal you can have at a young age.
I agree. And if you do make a lot of money, you can always give it to other people and make them happy too.
Or spend it on other people.
Right. So I played soccer, tennis. I was on the swim team. I played table tennis. Played a little bit of basketball, a little bit of volleyball. Those were my sports. But mostly I played soccer. And as I got older, I retreated into the goal because nobody wanted to be goalie. So I would do that and help out my team that way. Now I'm retired. I define success in a very similar way, that to me it's really being able to live the life that you want to live, and hopefully you're able to do that while holding true to your values and helping other people at the same time. The thing that's going to make you the happiest is to be close to your family, to be close to your friends, to have real connections with other people. What makes people really unhappy is that they define success in such a way that they become very lonely because it's just them and their money, and they've left all their friends behind. So don't leave your friends behind. Stick together, be together, you'll be happy that way.
Okay. Thank you both. Thank you for taking your time on a Wednesday. I know you're both busy, and I'm glad we got a 2-for-1 special on this one. So double the knowledge, double the fun. So really appreciate it. And just want to say thank you again for all the work that you do within the Cambridge area, and obviously in the state of Massachusetts and beyond. Once again, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thanks for nice to meet you. Thank you so much for your hard work, AK. And it might not feel like it if you're at camp in the summer, but thank you all for your hard work. It's clear that you're working hard to get the best future for yourself. And I hope you all just keep it up. Bye-bye.
Give him a big thank you.
Thank you. All right. Until next time. Thank you.
I'm telling you.